We're constantly bombarded with information, right? And trying to figure out what's just a strong opinion versus what's a solid fact, man, it can be tough. But there's actually a process for that, a really disciplined one. So let's get into it.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? How do we really know what's true? How do we get past our own gut feelings or just, flashy headlines and find something we can actually rely on? Well, it all boils down to one big idea.
And that's what we're going to unpack today, the whole process of research. And look, don't think of it as some boring, stuffy thing you do in a dusty library. It's much more like a structured adventure, a quest to really truly understand things a little better.
Okay, so first things first. If we're going to go on this quest, we need to know what we're talking about. So what is research, really?
All right, check out this definition. The two phrases that really jump out to me are systematic process and increase our understanding. See, this is key. It's not just randomly Googling stuff. It's a step-by-step methodical journey. And the goal isn't just to pile up a bunch of facts, it's about actually getting it, building real comprehension.
And here's a pretty cool way to remember what's at the heart of it all. The word research itself is an acronym for its core values. You've got R for a rational way of thinking, E for expert treatment, and it goes all the way down to C for critical observation, and this one's huge, H for honesty. It's such a great reminder that solid research isn't just about being smart. It's a mix of hard work, careful thinking, and, just being honest.
All right, so like any good adventure, there are rules to the game, and research is no different. But these rules aren't there to hold you back. They're what makes sure the things we discover are actually trustworthy and, mean something. So let's talk about the pillars that everything is built on.
These four things right here, this is what separates real research from just an opinion. Think of it like a checklist. First, objectivity. Did the researcher keep their own biases out of it? Second, reliability. If someone else did the exact same study, would they get the same results? Third, validity. Are you actually measuring what you think you're measuring? And finally, accuracy. Are the results on point? If you can tick all those boxes, you know you're dealing with something solid.
And these principles here are what guide the actual journey. The process has to be systematic, right? It has to follow a logical order. It's got to be empirical, based on stuff you can actually observe in the real world. And this last one, replicable, is so important. It basically means that another researcher should be able to take your map, your methods, and follow it to the exact same treasure. That's really the gold standard.
Okay, so now that we know the rules, what about the path itself? Well, just like in any great adventure, there isn't just one road to take. A researcher has to pick the right approach for the specific question they're trying to crack.
So first up, you have to decide on the big picture goal. Are you doing fundamental research? That's kind of like being an old school explorer, discovering a new continent just to map it out and see what's there. The goal is just to know more. Or are you doing applied research? That's more like being a doctor trying to find a cure for a specific disease. You're taking what we already know and applying it to solve a very real problem. Then you've got the type of treasure you're looking for, the data. Is it quantitative? That's all about numbers, stats, things you can count. It answers questions like how many or how much, and usually you need a lot of data for that. But then there's qualitative research. This is less about counting and more about understanding. It deals with descriptions, stories, and context to get at that really deep question, why?
And finally, how do you think through the problem? You can use deductive reasoning, which is top-down. This is like a detective who already has a prime suspect. They start with the theory, this person did it, and then they test it by checking alibis and looking for evidence. Or you can go bottom-up with inductive reasoning. This is the detective at the very beginning of the case with no suspects. They're just gathering clues from the crime scene, and from those specific clues, they build a theory about what happened. Two different ways to get to the truth.
So no matter which of those paths a researcher takes, they all follow the same basic map. It's a 7-step process that makes sure the whole journey is orderly and makes sense from beginning to end.
And this structure is pretty much universal. It's kind of like a funnel, you see? You start out really broad by just picking a general area you're interested in. Then you zero in on a very specific question. Step 3 is crucial. You do a literature review, which is basically homework to see what other smart people have already figured out. Then you pick your methods, go out and collect your data, analyze everything you found, and finally, you get to reach a conclusion. See how each step just flows right into the next? It's super logical.
But, today's explorers aren't just using a paper map and a compass. Oh no. They have this amazing digital toolkit that makes every single part of this journey way, way easier.
So first things first, the literature search. I mean, it makes sense, right? Before you can add something new to the conversation, you have to know what people are already talking about. It really is about standing on the shoulders of giants.
And the tools for this are incredible. You've got search engines like Google Scholar and massive databases like JSTOR. Think of them as the world's biggest, smartest libraries right at your fingertips. Then you've got tracking tools like Mendeley or Zotero. These are like your own personal research assistant, keeping all of your sources perfectly organized so you don't lose your mind.
Okay, so once you've done your homework, it's time for the really exciting part, the heart of the quest. This is where you actually go out, gather new information, and then try to make sense of it all.
And again, digital tools have totally changed the game here. You can collect huge amounts of data using something as simple as Google Forms or SurveyMonkey. Then, to crunch all those numbers, you have super powerful programs like SPSS or R. And for the qualitative stuff, the interviews, the observations, tools like NVivo are amazing for helping you spot patterns and themes in all that text.
Okay, but with all these powerful tools and methods comes a huge responsibility. And this brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most important part of the entire research quest: the ethical code, the moral compass. And this part, it's absolutely non-negotiable.
And right at the very core of that code is one simple, incredibly powerful idea: honesty. That's it. Because without that, the whole thing, the entire quest for knowledge, it just completely falls apart. Honesty is the absolute bedrock. It means you have to be straight up about everything: your methods, your results, your data. Making stuff up or tweaking your data to fit what you want to see, that's not just a simple mistake. It's a complete betrayal of what research is all about. And a huge part of being honest is giving credit where credit is due. That's what this quote gets at. Plagiarism, it's basically stealing someone else's ideas and pretending they're yours. It's intellectual theft, plain and simple. And it just completely poisons the well, It breaks the trust that all of science and knowledge is built on. So you see, research isn't just something for scientists in white lab coats. It's really a mindset. It's a structured, ethical way of being curious and trying to find real answers. It's a toolkit that any of us can use to make sense of the world. So now that you know the rules of the quest and have the map, what questions are you going to start asking?